Bloody Felt, written by the amazing and thoroughly confusing Logan Horberg, story by Logan Horberg and Ann Marco, based on the characters created by Rian Johnson and Jim Henson. Interior, the Henson Theater lobby night. The crowd is alight with excitement. They filter in through the doors past several posters.
I can't believe we got tickets.
It was sold out within a minute. Thank goodness you're quick on the click.
They chuckle and move towards the concession stand. Amid the crowd stands Viola Davis, regal but intense, the harshest critic in the theater world. She looks at the crowd with a raised eyebrow and jots down a few notes in her notebook. After a beat, Chris Elms, beard like a crazy person, the writer of the show, sidles up next to her.
Go away.
I come in peace.
You seem like you're in a good mood.
It's opening night. Who wouldn't be excited?
I hope you know I think this whole show is just a bad idea. Like Gonzo's one-man show. Look, Ma, chicken cannon.
Well, that hurts. Shouldn't you be impartial?
I'm here, aren't I?
She walks away.
Enjoy the show!
Interior, the Henson Theater continuous. Viola sits in her chair. She looks around the theater, seeing the balcony box occupied by Waldorf and Statler, as old and curmudgeon as always.
Who'd have thought we'd be back here attempting legitimate theater?
We all know how well that usually goes.
Poorly?
Bingo.
They laugh to themselves as the lights go down.
Would they shut us down already?
They laugh again. Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem begin playing the introductory music as the curtain rises. The lights come up and the stage sit the corpse of Mitchell Keaton, somehow looking annoyed even in death. The now late producer of the show, his throat has been cut and he's bled out fairly recently. One of the theater goers leans to another.
Great production value.
Seems a bit dark for a Muppet movie, but daring nonetheless.
The band continues playing as Dr. Teeth looks towards the stage.
Wait, that's not right.
Dead guy! Dead guy!
But isn't this a murder mystery?
Real dead guy! Real dead guy!
Oh, that's a bummer. The band stops playing and the audience starts to catch on that this isn't part of the show. A murmur of panic starts to stir through the audience.
Well, look at that. Even our producer didn't want to see the show.
Statler looks at Waldorf.
That's messed up. You know that, right?
I know.
The curtain drops and Scooter, frantic, the stage manager, runs up onto the stage.
Ladies, gentlemen, assorted Muppets, we have had an unexpected bit of foul play by way of a murder. We will reconvene at a later date. Good evening.
Scooter turns and runs into the curtain, but is unable to find the part. He struggles to find his way through before eventually discovering the opening. Interior, the Henson Theater, on stage, continuous. Scooter looks at the body as the rest of the cast looks in from the wings. Walter, in costume, runs up to Scooter.
Oh, this is terrible. We must call the police.
No. Someone give me the phone number for Benoit Blanc.
Benoit Blanc? Why not call the cops?
2 reasons. 1, I don't really like cops. 2, if we don't, there's no movie.
That's all the reason I need.
Slam cut to interior, the Henson Theater lobby day. 3 days later, the doors to the lobby open and in walks Benoit Blanc, gentleman, detective, finishing the last puffs of his cigar. Blanc looks around the lobby for a beat before Joseph Rian, Levittson, bristling with nervous energy. The director comes running up to him.
Mr. Blanc, so good to see you. Thank you for coming.
Of course. I'm always ready to uncover the dark mysteries of death. Can you please escort me to the scene of the misdeed?
Do you mean where the body was?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. Right this way.
Interior, the Henson Theater. On stage moments later, Blanc walks around the stage and looks over the scene. He eyes the set, which looks like a large house on a hill.
There's something that feels oddly familiar about all this.
Blanc looks to Levittson.
Is there a rehearsal set for this afternoon?
In about 20 minutes. The cast has been off for the last few days while we go back on track.
Chris Elm walks onto stage, nervous but stewing.
None of this would be happening if we hadn't changed so much of the script.
Oh, you don't know that.
I mean, I kind of do.
And why is that?
Elm gulps.
Because Mitchell was the one who brought in all the Muppets. If we hadn't used my original draft, he wouldn't have been hired.
Chris, let it go.
Call the cast up now. Time to meet my suspects.
Do you really think it was one of the cast who killed Mitchell?
I don't rightly know. Not yet. But all I require is the truth.
Interior, the Henson Theater. On stage, 10 minutes later, the cast of the show sits in the audience as Levittson paces on stage. Blanc sits casually in the armchair behind him, hidden in shadow. Elm looks around the room, sweat pouring from his head and soaking his shirt.
Welcome back, everyone.
Before Levittson can go on any further, an elegant gloved hand raises in the audience. That hand belongs to the only Miss Piggy.
Me,
Yes?
safe here.
Why wouldn't you be?
This for 3 days ago, and we have no idea who did it.
A smart pig.
Kermit the Frog, sitting next to her, rests a hand on her shoulder. Fozzie Bear leans forward to look at her.
Why are you nervous? You aren't the producer.
He's gonna be afraid of being murdered.
That's a fair point.
Kermit looks from them to Levittson on stage.
Is the show canceled?
Of course not. It would take a lot more than one death to put a stop to this show.
How many would it take?
At least 7, I would think. Is certainly no more than 10.
That seems like a lot.
But we don't have to worry about any more deaths. Deaths because we've called in a special bit of backup. Mr. Blanc?
A murmur goes through the cast as their eyes fall to Blanc. Sam the Eagle can't quite see through the darkness.
Who's that? Is that Angela Lansbury?
I wish.
Blanc stands and faces the cast.
I understand you must all be in a certain state of shock.
Waldorf and Statler look from the balcony.
Less than you think.
Yeah, none of us like them.
Your show reopens in 4 days, and in that time, I promise you, I will discover who has perpetrated this heinous act and bring them to the proper authorities.
Gonzo, the resident whatever, shoots his hand up.
Yes, I believe you got a question.
I do. What's Rachel Wise like?
Any other questions?
Gonzo hands shoot up again. Blanc sighs.
Yes.
What was it like getting that dragon tattoo?
I believe you have me mistaken for someone else. Also, I wasn't the one with the tattoo in that one.
Blanc turns to Levittson.
I need to speak with every one of them one by one.
Interior the Henson Theater backstage minutes later. Blanc sits in a large chair across the room from Kermit.
Can we get you anything?
No, thank you. I'm fine, Mr. Frog. I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Sure.
You're normally backstage for these kind of shows. Why the difference for this?
Well, Piggy asked me to.
You're referring to Miss Piggy, your co-star.
Yes.
And I've been told you have a bit of history together.
Interior the Henson Theater backstage another time. Miss Piggy now sits in the chair.
Oh, we've been madly in love for years.
Years, you say?
Oh, yes. We've been engaged, married, separated, loved each other, hated each other. Our passions run wild.
And how about at the moment? How's the passion running right now?
Interior the Henson Theater backstage earlier.
Oh, we're taking a break right now.
Interior the Henson Theater backstage another time.
So steamy, being together when we're not allowed to be.
Interior the Henson Theater backstage earlier.
I knew with me being on stage for the show, the crew might think there was some favoritism at work, so I called it quits for right now.
Interior the Henson Theater backstage later. Denise, another pig, sits across from Blanc.
Oh, everyone knows.
No.
Oh, yeah. How could we not? Piggy is many things, but subtle has never been one of them.
That is true. I've always heard Piggy was about as subtle as a hand grenade and a barrel of glitter.
Interior the Henson Theater backstage another time.
We can't keep our hands off each other.
Putting aside the visual of that, partially because not something I ever really need to imagine, what can you tell me about the deceased?
Mitchell? Well, we certainly never dated, if that's what you're asking.
I wasn't.
Interior the Henson Theater backstage earlier.
He was a nice guy, a little bit of a nut, but what producer isn't?
Interior the Henson Theater backstage a little later.
He was certainly a little batty. Tried to fire me every week. It was almost like a running joke. I'd ask, "You gonna fire me today?" And he'd shout, "I'm trying, but Levittson won't allow it."
Interior the Henson Theater backstage earlier.
So tell me about this show.
Well, I'm very excited to get to explore this story in this medium. It's a subversion on the usual murder mystery, a cast of electric supporting characters, a potential disappointing reveal.
So basically every other murder mystery.
But with more twists.
I don't suppose that twist involved a real murder.
Of course not. That was a shock to all of us.
I'd reckon so. And why did Mitchell want to fire Fozzie?
Because Fozzie's box office poisons every solo project he's ever had. He has tanked harder than the last. Who's that bear? Morbius? It's Morbin time? And that's 80s show. Well, that, and he's a terrible, terrible actor, but I love his energy. It's perfect for the eccentric detective.
Interior the Henson Theater backstage a little later.
I love the way you talk.
Blanc is taken aback.
I've been training to be a proper professional actor for this show, and I developed quite an ear for accents. You want to hear?
I'd rather not.
Go ahead, Punky. You're making my day.
That was really impressive.
That was my Luke Skywalker.
Interior the Henson Theater backstage earlier. Sam the Eagle, stoic as always, stares Blanc down.
Mr. Eagle.
You may call me Sam.
Thank you, Sam. Forgive me, but you've been very vocal about your feelings about the departed.
Mr. Keaton?
Yes.
Well, I won't lie and say we never butted heads.
Interior the Henson Theater, Sam's dressing room flashback. Sam stares daggers at Michael Keaton 6 days ago, alive and pissed.
You want to run that by me again, Sam?
Certainly. I'm happy to repeat myself. Do pay attention this time. You are a buffoon, and your ineptitude is running this show into the ground. And please make no mistake. Offense intended.
Care to elaborate?
Most definitely. You are failing to market this show properly.
You're the Muppets. You've got a built-in audience.
But we will never grow that audience if we don't bring in the younger teen market.
Teens don't go to the theater.
They might if they knew it was a hip adaptation of one of their favorite movies. Yet your social media page is silent. You've been treating this like it's just another off-Broadway flop. But we are the Muppets. We should be hosting the Oscars, not getting buried on Disney Plus and being forced back to the stage.
I've never thought of this as off-Broadway.
Sam stands.
Think you could do better?
Of course I could.
Well, I've got news for you. I'm here to stay. And if I never understood the appeal of you guys.
Keaton shrugs and walks out of the dressing room. Right outside the door, he bumps into Constantine, Kermit's oddly accented doppelganger.
No.
Oh, hello, my good sir. I was hoping we could talk.
No.
Sam sees as Mitchell walks away from Constantine. Interior, the Henson Theater backstage present. Sam shrugs.
We simply disagreed about our social media pages. Then I remembered that Pepe is the moderator, and I plan to get the access from him shortly.
Blanc nods. Interior, the Henson Theater backstage. Bobo, too big for the chair, sits. Blanc paces and looks at him.
I'm just happy to be in the cell. I haven't worked since I was on a cocaine bear standing. Let me tell you, that bear sure had a drug problem.
Cocaine?
No, crystal meth.
Blanc clears his throat.
How did you feel about Mr. Keaton?
Wasn't a fan of that man.
Really? Why's that?
Interior, the Henson Theater lobby, flashback. Bobo sits in one of the seats reading himself a large sandwich.
Now, where did I leave the sauce?
Bobo reaches down but accidentally knocks over the bottle, which rolls down the inclined floor.
Darn it!
Bobo gets up and chases after the escaping bottle of sauce.
You get back here.
Mitchell walks down the aisle and sees Bobo's unguarded sandwich. Mitchell picks up the sandwich and takes a large bite. Bobo picks up the bottle and looks back, seeing Mitchell eating his sandwich. Mitchell, having finished half the sandwich, looks at Bobo.
It's a little dry. Could use some sauce.
Mitchell drops the sandwich back onto Bobo's seat and walks away. The audacity. Interior, the Henson Theater backstage present. Bobo looks at Blanc.
He was a filthy sandwich thief, sir. I can forgive a lot of things, but a sandwich thief, that I cannot.
Fair enough. You can go.
Thanks. The story made me want a sandwich.
Interior, the Henson Theater backstage. Minutes later, Blanc sits across from Elm.
So tell me about your draft.
It was dark. It was edgy. None of the characters were likable, leaving you unsure who to root for.
Interior, the Henson Theater backstage moments ago.
It was kind of unbearable. Like, there would be a glimpse of things you'd like, but just surrounded by so much slog. So Mitchell brought in the Muppets to lighten it up and forced a rewrite.
Interior, the Henson Theater backstage minutes later.
So I had to change my masterpiece into something more fitting its audience, thus butchering my vision. But I reworked the clay into a brilliant show.
Even Blanc can't tell if he's actually means the last part. Interior, the Henson Theater backstage hallway afternoon. Blanc walks through the halls preparing himself a cigar. Scooter rushes up beside him, as does Chris Elm.
Mr. Blanc.
I've finished my initial line of questioning.
I don't suppose that means you've got any suspects?
Animal moves past them, heading who knows where.
All I can say at this point with certainty is that the band didn't do it.
Animal throws his hands up in the air.
Innocent! Innocent!
Scooter hurries to catch up to Blanc.
But other than that, I don't rightly know. I got one or two ideas bouncing around this old noggin, but seem a bit too premature to act on at this stage.
Blanc's wondering has led him to the stage. He pulls out a box of matches and moves to light his cigar.
Oh, you can't smoke that here.
What, in the theater?
No, in a Muppet movie.
From someone so smart, you think you'd have figured it out by now.
That would be the merciful thing. Then this would be over.
Blanc looks up at the box to see Waldorf and Statler. M looks cautiously from Blanc to the box.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. How's the view from up there?
I heard sillier accents from up here.
But not many.
May I come up there to speak to you?
We'd rather you
Over our
didn't.
dead bodies.
What he said.
On opening night, you saw nothing.
Not a thing.
We mercifully didn't have to watch the show.
You two are rude.
Gotta get ready for the run through.
I'll go tell the cast.
Chris Elm walks off quickly, grabbing his dark overcoat and fedora.
Do you need to sit down with me to inquire on my whereabouts?
Oh, no, I can guarantee you had nothing to do with it.
Really? But I've got the whole secret evil twin sister and everything.
Yeah, but that makes you the good twin, which means you're fundamentally incapable of committing murder.
Man, I was hoping to be the third act plot twist.
Can you show me to Keaton's office?
Oh, sure.
Scooter leads Blanc off the stage. Interior, the Henson Theater, Mitchell Keaton's office later. Blanc stands and looks over at the contents of the office, which includes a large bat suit and large display case.
Bit ostentatious for my taste, but...
Blanc sits behind Keaton's desk and looks at Scooter.
Now, you told me about a meeting between Keaton and Levittson that got a little heated the other day.
Oh, sure. Would you like me to tell you, or would you rather I flashback instead?
What?
We'll just go with the flashback.
Interior, the Henson Theater, Mitchell's Keaton's office, flashback. Keaton sits across the table from Levittson.
What do you mean we have an access of tickets for opening night?
I sent out tickets to all of our fan clubs, and most of them got sent back with a polite decline.
Why don't they want to see the show?
Most of them think that the Muppets tackling something this mature puts them closer to something like the Happy Time Murders, and they just rather not remember that movie even exists.
But this isn't dark. It says lighthearted and in the same style as any beloved Muppet classic.
Then why didn't we add any musical numbers?
Because Sam refused to sing the line about eating on an islet of shit. So we had to rewrite.
Can't you reach out to your Hollywood friends to talk about us on the Twitter?
Because most of my Hollywood contacts already have cameos in the show, and they feel it's a conflict of interest to promote a show they are secretly in until the week after release.
We're too dark for the pursuits and not dark enough for the casual fans.
We found the right balance.
We're gonna have to flop, and it's all your fault.
That's not the first time I've heard that. I directed a Star Wars movie.
Then bring that same panache!
How about you don't tell me how to do my damn job?
Interior, the Henson Theater, Mitchell Keaton's office present. Blanc leads forward at the desk.
Both were of the opinion the other was running the show into the ground. Maybe that's enough of a motive to kill. I think we need to talk to Mr. Levittson. Has anyone seen him? Well, that's never a good sound.
But on point when it comes to comedic timing.
Blanc gets up and they take off for the sound of screams. Interior, the Henson Theater, on stage moments later. Blanc rushes to the stage, followed closely by Scooter. Ahead of them, Miss Piggy screams with terror. Blanc follows her to focus and sees the now dead body of Levittson, a knife plunged into his chest. The rest of the cast runs out and stops in shock. Denise turns towards the nearest person in this case, Chris Elm, and buries her face into his chest. He eyes her and then tucks a dark pair of gloves into his pocket.
We're dropping like flies.
Don't say that. We don't want to cause a panic.
Why are you saying we? You might not want to start a panic, but I do. We might get murdered. Who even knows what that means for us?
Camilla, Gonzo's chicken wife, and a part of the set crew, trots up to him and puts a comforting wing on his nose, stroking it to calm him down.
What? Right.
Blanc moves closer to examine the body. He's been stabbed a dozen times in the chest, and the blood is slowly pooling around him.
All the world's a stage. Awfully public to kill on the stage like this. Did anyone see anything?
Why are you whispering to yourself?
Is it because you don't want to subject us to your accent?
Blanc stands and looks at the pair.
You two ain't gonna be more helpful this time.
No.
But we really did see something this time.
I know, but it's more fun to drive him nuts.
You're not wrong.
Did I just hear you two?
Mocking you?
Yes, we do that quite a bit. Ask the bear.
Bobo turns away from the dead body.
I've never had an issue with them.
Not you.
Oh.
Fozzie turns towards them.
They're merciless. I don't think about murder, but I do think about the two of them getting hit by a train.
That sure sounds like murder.
Oh, then I've thought about murder a lot.
Blanc's attention returns to the aging hecklers.
But you said you saw something.
We did.
And would you care to illuminate me?
What?
Can you tell me what you saw?
What?
What did you see?
Gonzo looks at Blanc.
You need to laugh a little, Mr. Blank. Relax. My bad.
Yeah, it's hard to laugh when a murderer's on the loose.
Ha, ha, ha. See?
I'd rather not.
A shadowy figure steps up behind Waldorf and Statler. They turn to see the figure, but Blanc cannot see the shadow's face. Interior Waldorf and Statler's booth continuous. The shadowy figure draws a knife from the hip holster.
Oh, that's not good.
Statler steps up to the shadow over the heckler.
A knife? How unoriginal.
The shadow raises the knife and brings it down as interior Henson Theater on stage continuous. Waldorf and Statler drop from out of view and Blanc runs for the backstage.
How do I get up there?
Use the stairs.
Which stairs?
I don't know.
Back corner, the door covered with trespassers will be mocked signs.
Interior Waldorf and Statler's booth. Moments later, Blanc bursts through the door of the box and see Waldorf and Statler dead.
Good Lord.
Blanc looks over the scene, felt strewn everywhere. Blanc leans over the balcony and shouts to the Muppets gathered on the stage.
I'll say we got another murder. Get somebody up here to block off the booth. We need to look for evidence.
Like that would help.
Blanc looks back into the booth from the source of the voice. Both Waldorf and Statler still lie dead.
Who said that?
What do you think, you Kentucky Fried Gumshoe?
Because he's not as impressive as we thought.
Who is speaking?
Guess.
Bet he still doesn't get it.
Blanc looks all over but still sees nothing but the corpses.
Now, he's trying so hard.
Why feel bad?
Because even trying this much, it won't make the movie better.
Waldorf and Statler's laugh can be heard as their ghosts appear on the booth, covered in chains.
Oh, of course.
We spent so much time here in life. Now we're trapped here after death.
Why is fate so cruel?
Well, we have spent the last several decades mocking it.
Fair point.
Gentlemen, please.
The ghosts turn their attention to Blanc.
If it's not inconvenient, I'd sure appreciate you two sharing your murderer with me.
Why would we do that?
Because you've been killed.
So?
But don't you want to stop a dangerous killer?
Doesn't matter.
What?
Well, they already killed us.
Yeah. And now we don't have to watch these terrible shows anymore.
Yeah, but you could help and stop more of your fellows from meeting the same fate.
We were never helpful in life.
Yeah, why start now?
Blanc sags, annoyed.
So you're really not going to tell me anything?
You know what? He seems sad.
He does.
I'm gonna tell him something.
What?
What?
Waldorf leans in towards Blanc, beckoning him in closer.
I do have one thing to say. It might be of some help.
Blanc moves closer.
Please.
A beat.
Your accent is really dumb.
All right, well, thank you, gentlemen.
Blanc leaves the booth, Waldorf and Statler following behind him.
This is great. We can keep this going 24/7.
As Blanc leaves the booth, Waldorf and Statler try to phase out after him, but are unable to leave the booth.
What's this?
Why can't we leave?
I guess fate is a cruel mistress.
Or just a poor sport.
They float there for a beat.
So what do we do now?
You want to keep mocking these fools?
Sure.
They float over their seats and look back down at the stage.
I hate this.
Me too.
And hear the Henson Theater on stage. Blanc trudges back to the stage, met by Scooter. The other Muppets are murmuring in the background. Elm stands at the back of the crowd, out of breath. Bobo looks at him.
You doing all right?
I'm out of shape.
Did they say anything?
If they did, they're taking it with them to the grave. Or at least that booth.
So what is happening here?
Well, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts lately and serial killers, and they always say that 3 kills make a pattern.
My goodness, that is horrific.
Although these folks weren't killed in a ritualistic fashion, so it's far most likely that it's just murders of opportunity. Certainly not enough frenzy to be a spree or, heaven forbid, a massacre.
Sam looks at him for a long beat.
You frightened me, boy. Keep that sort of mess to yourself.
Well, the little Muppet is right, to say the least.
Blanc turns back to Scooter.
How many days until the new opening night?
2.
And we have 48 hours to find the most likely suspects and ensure they won't do it again.
Oh, I wouldn't want to delay the audience their chance to see me take the stage.
Denise shouts from the back of the crowd.
It's not all about you.
Who said that?
Shouldn't we get paid vacation days while we're investigating, while this investigation's going on?
Vacation days?
Well, we're not working, are we?
May I say something?
Certainly.
There seems to be a lot of tensions here. I think the best way to forge ahead would be to get all of it out in the open. Well, yeah.
First, I like the show.
I wish we were doing what we used to do. I'm movie shows. Excuse me. Muppets now, and this is not doing it for me.
I'm upset that the structure of this feels eerily similar to Sam Rockwell films. See how they run.
I'm upset that there's even an investigation to what was obviously not a murder, and there's no need to even look into it.
Craft service is terrible. I don't know what I'm eating half the time. I've been bringing my own food from home.
What do you mean my food is terrible? I expertly handcraft every single dish by the same perfection. Burp, burp.
But you never have sandwiches.
Sandwiches? You want sandwiches? But you can't bring me a sandwich. You son of a girl.
I just wish there were more rock numbers in the show. Our directed cat was all about that weird jazz stuff.
Well, he's dead now, so why not just play what you want to?
Good point.
I'm upset I'm not a bigger part of the
I'm not
show.
the bigger part of the show.
I'm upset I'm not in the show at all.
We should be marketing the show better.
Did you have something to say about the marketing, okay? Just say it to my face.
You will give me access to your social media.
Say please and buy me dinners first, okay?
All right. I think that's enough airing of dirty laundry for right now. Why don't you all go back to your dressing rooms? We'll be by shortly to further question you. Scooter, with me?
Blanc walks off the stage and Scooter runs behind him. Enter the Henson Theater backstage moments later. Benoit Blanc walks through the hall, Scooter trailing behind him.
So what do we know?
Ooh, are we compiling theories?
Damn right we are. I need to focus my rather impressive intellect. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do love to dish a little hot gossip every now and again, but when I do find the whole exercise tiring after a spell. My teapot is so full of tea, I can't even pour it without spilling something.
It is exhausting keeping up with all of those Kardashians.
Oh, I'm not a fan of them either. Now, I ask once again, what do we know?
Aren't you working on any theories?
I mean, I do have one, but it's so simple, so obvious that there's no way you would have wasted my time with it. So it must be something else. So I ask you again, what do we know?
Scooter pops open a small notebook and reads his notes.
Well, if I compile all the different anecdotes, carry the 4, everybody's angry.
I mean, yeah. Let me see your notes.
Blanc grabs Scooter's notes and looks at the page. It reads, Miss Piggy is angry. Gonzo is angry. Sam is angry. Bobo is hangry. Swedish chef is angry. Am I angry? Mr. Elm seems nice. Blank sighs and hands Scooter back the notepad.
What departments haven't we spoken to yet?
Scooter looks over his notes.
Marketing, safety and stunts, and costumes.
Well, then let's knock them off the list and see what apples of truth we can shake loose from the branch.
I love how you turn a phrase.
Enter the Henson Theater backstage an hour later. Benoit Blanc stands opposite Pepe, face buried in his phone and smartwatch simultaneously.
I've only got a few minutes, okay? We've got the live stream scheduled and we cannot be late, okay?
Right, look, I've only got a few questions. It should only take a moment. We've heard the social media has been lacking.
Who told you that? Was it Sam?
Well, I can't...
Oh, well, let me rephrase. I know it was Sam because none of the others know what social media is.
But Miss Piggy's been very active on Twitter.
Piggy's got her own social media manager. You really think she knows how to properly hashtag? I don't think so, okay?
What did Sam say?
So sorry, time to start this live stream.
Pepe turns the phone around and starts filming.
Oh, hey, here, all you Muppet fans. We are backstage with the legendary detective, Mr. Benoit Blanc. Say a little something to the fancies, okay?
Pepe holds the phone in Blanc's face. Blanc is flummoxed.
But don't just say nothing after I just give you the perfect introduction, okay?
Blanc thinks for a quick moment, then takes the phone.
Hello there. Look, I'm not one for long speeches, unless it's about the unraveling of a mystery. And I certainly am not up on the history of all this. But I do know someone who is.
Blanc holds the phone to Scooter.
Go ahead, Scooter. Tell him about the history of this theater while I talk to our host.
Scooter smiles and holds the phone up a little too close to his face.
Oh, I know all the little secrets about this place. It used to be my uncle's.
Scooter walks away and Pepe moves to chase after him, but is stopped by Blanc.
No, you don't understand. It's a social media vacuum.
Pepe shouts to Scooter.
What is the view account?
58. But I haven't told them about the bathrooms yet.
How many now?
37.
Pepe looks back to Blanc.
You see?
Then tell me about Sam.
He's been pestering me about the socials for weeks. Even before the show. He just thinks we aren't promoting the older fogies enough. But we gotta hook youth, okay? Something's gotta come after the Muppet baby crowds, you know?
I really don't, but go on.
Can I just flash back? I'd a little quicker, okay?
If you must.
Gracias, senor.
Enter the Henson Theater backstage flashback. Pepe is confronted by Sam, who has his feathers all flared. He's clearly in a huff or a puff.
Ooh, that man is so frustrating. Pepe!
See.
That infuriating Mr. Keaton has informed me that you are in charge of all the social media for our brand. Is that correct?
Yes, it is, and it's a job I feel I was born to do, okay? I can feel it in my peroneal loins.
I definitely do not want to hear about those.
What can I do for you for the socials? You want a bigger brand? Gotta be honest. You really only smell well with mouths 45 to 85, okay?
I don't care about my social media presence, but we should be marketing this show a little bit to our older audience.
Oh, well, he is a speed bump. I control the socials, but I still have the approval of Cate's the boss about the show, okay?
Maybe Pepe should open an OnlyFans to show his loins. Sam fumes.
So he'd still have the final say over it. Oh, I could just murder that man!
Sam storms off.
Oh. Where's the knife? I need to stab something!
You can borrow mine!
Into the Henson Theater backstage present. Pepe stands nervously looking between Blanc and Scooter.
So after all the killings happened, I just gave him control of the marketing for the show to avoid getting ego stabbed, okay? He's got approvals to post whatever he wants about this show. And I have the rest, okay? He's calmed down, you know? I haven't seen him as puffed up.
Thank you for your time.
Blanc moves aside and Pepe rushes off towards Scooter, who grabs the phone from his hand.
Like I said, my uncle used to own this place
And we get it. We get this place through nepotisms, okay? Moving on.
Pepe looks at the viewer count. 12.
Look at those looks facts, okay? Once we go to check out Gonzo's Canon collection.
Interior, Henson Theater, costume shop. Moments later, Blanc stands with Uncle Deadly hard at work in the costumes.
I wish I could be more of assistance, but I've been buried down here, hard at work on the latest revisions to the script.
Revisions? When were those turned in?
About a day or so ago, Piggy came down and gave me a handful of sketches for the new dresses.
He holds up a large stack of cocktail napkins, each with a very rough sketch of a dress, along with the random notes like, NFT equals dress and invisibility cloak.
And this is normal?
What? For Piggy to think she's a fashionista, of course. But every year she's denied an invite to the Met Gala as she tries out, excuse me, she tries to outfashion them for the whole next week.
And would you say she's been successful in that?
Not in the way that she thinks. It does give me an excuse to try out some odd designs here and there.
So what were these last revisions?
Oh, something about a role being expanded in the finale, including a musical number? I don't know. I don't get the script. And most of the revisions that Piggy brings my way don't make it into the final show.
So you just do this to let Piggy spin her wheels?
At least until she tires herself out.
And these revisions, they were turned in by Piggy, not Mr. Elm?
Oh no, Mr. Elm refuses to do any more revisions after the initial ones.
Initial ones?
This was almost a completely different show. I read the original draft. It was good-ish, but definitely lost something in the transition. Then Mr. Keaton came in and changed up the whole thing.
The whole thing?
Most certainly. I'm not complaining, though. Work is work. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to figure out how to integrate crypto into this dress.
Well, then I'll leave you to it.
And be careful with...
Blanc leaves the shop and closes the door. The room rattles as he closes it, and the large stack of napkins topples over onto the floor.
The door. Oh, this is gonna take a while to clean.
Interior the Henson Theater, the booth. An hour later, Honeydew sits at a console while Beaker works on the rigging over the stage in the background. Blanc steps inside and looks over the layout. Feels more like the deck of a spaceship than a standard booth. There's a clatter from behind Blanc and he turns to see Elm.
Mr. Elm, what brings you to the booth?
Ho!
Elm tucks a large bar magnet into his back pocket.
I was just coming to go over the timing of the lights. They need to be synced to the word and the timing's been off.
The metal door pulls closed behind him, attracted to the magnet, and pulls Elm to the door, slapping his ass into the metal.
Well, don't let me stop you. You know what they say, the show must go on.
Blanc turns back to Honeydew as Elm struggles to unstick himself from the door.
Quite the setup you've got here.
Well, we've been here for quite a while, and in lieu of employment, I tend to tinker.
Seem to have tinkered your way into the 34th century.
Honeydew looks around and chuckles.
It would seem so. How can I help you?
You've been running tech here at the Henson for
8 years.
And in that time, you've been tinkering. I don't suppose you added a camera.
We have several. We tape the show and then edit them for sale.
Elm turns wide-eyed. He gets unstuck and falls onto his face. After a beat, he pops up. Blanc steps forward.
Do you have any footage of the stage in the off hours or a live feed?
We most certainly do, but if it's a live feed you're after, it only stores the previous few hours.
Well, I'd love to have a look.
Honeydew starts to push a few buttons. Elm slinks up and pushes a few too, trying to delay Blanc's watching the tape. Over the stage, the rigging platform beneath Beaker's feet drops and he flies sideways, his head landing on the other side.
Oops, I must have pressed the wrong button.
Honeydew pushes again and the platform flies back into the place, slamming into Beaker and sending him flying into the ropes ahead. Honeydew finds the proper controls and a screen glides up from the center of the console. Elm starts sweating buckets. He reaches into his back pocket for the magnet, but it's gone. He looks back and sees the whole butt of his jeans has been torn off, still stuck to the magnet on the door. The monitor blips to life and shows a live feed of the stage. Honeydew starts scrolling back, seeing scattered imaged. Fozzie laughing on stage, shadows of a frog and a pig moving together to kiss, and Beauregard sweeping. After a few moments, Blanc sees the body of Levittson on the stage with a dark shadow over him.
There.
Honeydew pushes the 30 seconds back button, but nothing happens.
Well, can't it go back any further?
Honeydew pushes the button again, but again, nothing happens.
I'm sorry, it would appear that we've reached the end of the tape's memory.
Well, isn't that a pickle?
Yes, and quite convenient for the plot, too.
Elm passes out, relief washing over him.
Well, I do thank you for your time regardless.
Blanc leaves the booth and Honeydew pushes another button. The ropes holding Beaker start to move, whipping him back upward with a terrified wail. Interior, the Henson Theater. Backstage, moments later, Blanc walks through the hall, buried in thought. Behind him, a door opens. Beauregard opens his eyes, balanced upside down on his broom. He leans forward and clatters to the ground, objects falling out of the closet after him. Blanc turns back at the commotion.
Oh, Beauregard, right?
Beauregard pops up and grabs his broom.
Can I ask you a question or two?
Oh, sure. I'm going to get started with my cleaning right here.
He starts sweeping the fallen items back into the closet, which seems to include an Emmy and a human skull.
You clean the stage every night, correct?
Sure do. Didn't think that job description included cleaning up crime scenes multiple times. But that's what I like about this job. Every day is different.
And that last one you cleaned up, were there any details you noticed about the scene?
Other than the usual blood and gore, thank goodness for baking powder and club soda. I had to scrape the footprints out of the edge of it. Some idiots had stepped in it and ground the blood into the cracks in the wood. That took forever to clean.
Footprints? Dare I ask what you remember about those prints?
Well, just that one of them had webbed feet and the other was wearing high heels.
Blanc cocks his head to the side.
Webbed feet, you say?
Blanc nods to Beauregard before turning and walking away.
Yeah, I did say that. What a weirdo.
Interior, the Henson Theater, backstage, dressing room, hallway. Moments later, Blanc looks from side to side, trying to find the right dressing room. Scooter joins him.
What did you find out?
I need someone to spill the tea.
Oh, Piggy's dressing room?
Obviously.
She's at the end of the hall, where that ominous, shadowy figure is standing.
Blanc whips around to see that Scooter is right. A shadowy figure stands in front of her door. The figure looks up and sees Blanc and Scooter and freezes.
You there!
The figure looks at Blanc intensely, their face never leaving the darkness.
I don't know what a suspect looks like, but I think that might be what I'd imagine.
The figure takes off and Blanc sags. He carefully pulls off his coat and hands it to Scooter before taking off running after them, pushing past Chris Elm, who drops his script to the floor and pouts. Exterior, the Henson Theater night. Blanc bursts from the door and looks around the street, trying to find the figure in the crowd. He catches a glimpse of them across the street, darting into the alley, still cloaked in shadow. Blanc jumps across the street, doing his best to not get hit by a car. A Plymouth stops and the driver leans out of the window. A trio of Muppets pop up in the back seat. Do-do-do-do. Blanc keeps looking after the figure who takes every twist and turn they can through the back alleys, always hidden in the shadow. Blanc jumps and leaps with a surprise expertise. Blanc lands a large jump.
I haven't run this hard since I was in Madagascar. And I was a young man back then. I am British.
Blanc sighs and takes off. Blanc runs around another corner, but the figure is gone. Blanc angrily kicks out a trash can. The faintest roll of thunder seems to mirror Blanc's anger.
Confound it.
Blanc's phone rings and he pulls it out.
Hello.
Mr. Blanc?
Who is this?
I might have a little bit of insight as to who's behind the killings at the Henson.
What information could you have?
Well, I've been threatened and I think my next appointment is on their way over here to kill me now.
Why not call the police?
because otherwise there's no movie.
Too right. I'm on my way.
Blanc rushes off down the street towards her office. After a beat, Blanc stops and holds his phone back to his ear.
I'm sorry. It occurs to me that I do not know your name or location.
Oh, of course. I'm in the...
Into your daily publication paper night, Blanc runs through the office and up to the secretary.
Hello, may I help you?
Yes, I'm here to see Miss DeVise.
Do you have an appointment?
I do not.
The secretary glances through the calendar and then over to her glasses at Blanc.
The next opening I have is early next week.
Oh, that really won't do. She said that one of her appointments was on the way over to kill her.
The secretary looks down at the daily planner.
She had a couple appointments show up right after lunch, but she's had nothing on the book since then.
Can I just pop inside?
I'm sorry. Miss DeVise insists on not letting people inside without an appointment. She's very in-demand critic, and this is the opening week for most productions. She's booked.
Does it matter if I tell you I'm trying to prevent her murder?
Her what?
Her murder? Her death. The end of her life.
Her murder? Well, we certainly like to stop that. I do want to keep this job after all.
The secretary pushes a button and the office door opens behind her. The office door behind her opens.
Go on in.
Blanc gives her a blank stare for a moment before hurrying through. Interior Viola Davies' office, continuous. Blanc comes through the door and stops in his tracks. Viola is dead at her desk, her throat punctured by a large feather quill.
Dag nabbit and tarnation.
What does that even mean?
It means you're out of the job.
I've been fired?
No, she's dead.
Oh, God, I hate job hunting.
Blanc crouches and looks at the scene.
Do me a favor before you start clearing out your desk.
I've already started, but go ahead.
Call the police.
You got it, honey.
Blanc looks over at the body and a large quill sticking out of her neck.
Who could have done it? On the phone, please.
That's easier.
Blanc sees a small stain of what looks like a clear slime on the table. He gets close, tilts his head, and his mind begins to ponder.
I've got a theory.
Blanc turns and the doorway is filled with a bundle of Muppet cops.
Thank you for rushing over, officers.
How do we know you didn't do this?
Well, me, now, I'll admit that I do believe the pen can be as mighty as a sword, but I rushed over here at the behest of the deceased. She told me that someone was going to kill her. You can ask her secretary.
That's what he told me when he ran up here.
Good enough for me. Don't leave town in case we got further questions.
I'm sure there will be. Have a good night.
Blanc walks out of the office, casting one last glance at the slime on the table. Thunder rumbles outside. Sounds like a storm.
Well, there's a storm coming for someone, all right.
Enter the Henson Theater backstage dressing room hallway night. Blanc walks through the hall, soaked and on a mission. He storms up to Miss Piggy's dressing room and knocks. Enter the Henson Theater, Miss Piggy's dressing room continuous. Miss Piggy turns and faces the door.
Intrude!
The door opens and Blanc steps inside.
Oh, Mr. Blanc.
Blanc drips for a moment before pulling off his coat.
Miss Piggy, might I have a word with you?
I don't see why not.
Before I ask anything, may I just say that I am a huge fan of your show, or of your work. I loved your one-woman show.
Oh, the world was not ready for Piggy on Piggy, but I'm always glad to meet a friend.
I don't suppose your man Kermit is hiding in here somewhere.
course not. We're not even together right now. Why would he be in here?
Because I can hear his feet nervously tapping from the moment I walked into the room.
Blanc and Miss Piggy listen. A tap dance rendition of Queen's Somebody to Love beats out across the floor. Blanc follows the sound to a paper screen. He crosses the room and stops right next to it. As the tapping of the song builds to a crescendo, Blanc clears his throat. The tapping stops. Kermit steps out from behind the screen.
Oh, hi there.
Good evening, Mr. the Frog. You know, I was looking forward to talking to you as well. Seeing as you're already here, how about it? 2 birds, 1 stone, all that.
Kermit scrunches and gulps.
Sure.
Interior the Henson Theater, Miss Piggy dressing room. Moments later, Kermit sits next to Piggy as Blanc stands in front of them.
Can you confirm your relationship for me, please?
Kermit and Piggy share a look.
We've been secretly married for 6 months.
Piggy!
What? Are you ashamed of our love?
No, but the last thing I want to be is accused of is nepotism.
I don't even know the meaning of that word.
Blanc clears his throat again.
What does our relationship have to do with anything?
Well, I've got a few clues pointing to a particular peculiar theory.
And what might that be?
A certain frog being present at all of the murder scenes.
What? Are you accusing me of killing someone?
Not presently. I did say the theory was peculiar, but I can't ignore the signs.
Kermit starts looking around the room nervously. He sees a clock and startles.
We've got rehearsal, Piggy. Let's head for the stage.
I'm not done with my questions.
For now, you are.
I don't even get to answer any questions.
Kermit stands and hurries from the room. Blanc looks back to Piggy.
I worry I've offended him.
Oh, Kermit's a softie. All you did was vaguely accuse him of being a murderer. He'll get over it.
She follows Kermit out of the room before Blanc can follow. His phone rings.
Hello?
Exterior hotel, same time. The secretary stands outside of the building.
Mr. Bianco?
Yes?
I think I remembered something, but then I watched the 14th Avatar movie and could not bring myself to care. They lost me once James Cameron AI Collective took over directing duties.
Back on topic, please.
I'm easily distracted. It made me a terrible assistant. But anyway, after I woke up from my Avatar coma, I remembered that right after lunch, Miss Davis had a meeting with a couple.
Interior the Henson Theater, Miss Piggy's dressing room continuous. Blanc's eyes widen.
A couple.
Yep, a frog and a pig.
Blanc hangs up and runs off towards the stage. Exterior hotel, same time. The secretary stands there looking at the phone.
I think that guy hung up on me. How rude.
Interior the Henson Theater, on stage moments later. Blanc walks on the stage with the collective Muppets gathered around. In the middle of the working a party scene. Chris Elm sits in the front row of the audience, watching them rehearse intensely. Kermit and Piggy dance through the cast. Gonzo hovers by the fake snack table, and Sam sits on a couch pretending to fume. Blanc looks across the stage at Kermit.
Mr. the Frog.
Kermit stops and sighs.
Mr. Blanc, we've been going through a lot this week, and we're in the middle of rehearsal. Can this wait?
I don't think it can.
Do I get to answer some questions now? I do love the idea of doing that in front of everybody.
Why did you do it, Mr. the Frog?
What's he talking about, Kermit?
I don't know, Gonzo.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. I got webbed footprints in blood at the first 2 crime scenes, and the last appointment Mr. V's had was with a frog.
Kermit, say it ain't so.
And a pig.
I beg your pardon?
Now, I didn't want to believe it, but when you combine all these facts with an overly evasive suspect, it's hard to ignore the elephant in the room.
A large elephant Muppet in the audience sighs.
Wrapped up in the show.
The elephant stands and scurries out of the theater.
Now, I ask again, Mr. the Frog, where were you when Mr. Levittson was killed? Did you get into an argument with Mr. Keaton on opening night? What was your meeting with Mr. Weiss about? No evading. I know you want to get back to your rehearsal, so answer my questions and this will all be over.
Kermit sighs and turns to face Blanc. Miss Piggy looks between the two.
And you got some questions coming your way with your Jimmy Choo shoes.
I'm sorry, what?
I'll answer your questions, Mr. Blanc.
Kermit stops and looks around the room at his castmates.
But I don't think you are going to like the answers.
A murmur goes through the room.
Say it isn't so.
Murder? Wow. That's super dark for us.
I was talking to our accountants. They paid us a visit on opening night to tell me that we're broke. They came back again and reminded me that we needed the show to sell out every night for 12 nights just to break even. And I met with Miss Viola on Tuesday to see if she'd want to help write a book to get us a little bit of extra income. I've been freaking out for the last week because instead of making money, we've had way too many murders than I'm used to dealing with.
Kermit pants and looks to Miss Piggy.
You gotta stop charging lunches to the expense account.
But I love a working lunch.
You don't eat anything.
Oh, but I like to have options.
Beauregard pops out from his closet.
So do I. That food feeds me for the week.
Beauregard, you're allowed to eat from craft service.
You mean it?
You've never not been allowed to eat from craft service.
Oh, I missed that detail.
He shuts himself back in the closet. Blanc, you need to unmute yourself.
Hang on a second. You said Tuesday.
Actually, we're gonna jump back to my thing for a second. Did you say Jimmy Choo?
Yeah, we've got Jimmy Choo shoe prints in blood at 2 of the crime scenes, and Mr. Weiss met with a couple, a frog and a pig.
But I wasn't with Kermit on Tuesday. I only saw Viola on opening night.
Well, now I'm puzzled.
You should be.
Miss Piggy storms up to Blanc and slaps him.
Jimmy Choo!
Blanc looks at her shocked. He nods.
Yes?
I'm Miss Piggy! Miss fucking Piggy! I wear Manolos!
Mr. Blanc, I know you're a great detective, but it seems like you've got a few facts out of place.
But
Blanc looks around and suddenly stops. He sees Constantine.
You?
Constantine stiffens.
I was unaware that you had another frog in the cast. Is he your understudy?
How dare you?
Actually, Beaker is Kermit's understudy.
Then I believe I need to ask you a few questions, Mr. Constantine.
Run, my dear.
Denise takes off running, cutting through the cast of the Muppets before she trips over Scooter, who's peeking out of the trapdoor on the floor. Scooter picks her up and walks her back towards Blanc as Bobo grabs Constantine and walks him towards the front of the crowd.
You two.
Miss Piggy glances down at her feet and points in accusatory fashion. Blanc looks at Denise, who looks back at Constantine.
I believe you two have some explaining to do.
Don't say anything, darling.
We've got nothing to fear.
Were you at the crime scene?
No. Yes.
Denise glares at Constantine.
And I'd say you do have something to fear.
Blanc looks at Constantine, who takes a deep breath and steadies himself.
It was a simple plan.
Interior the Henson Theater on stage. Flashback opening night. Constantine and Denise stand in the wings looking at the dead body of Keaton.
When Levittson was killed, we had a golden opportunity. Denise and I always dreamed about being the leads of a big Broadway show. But when we got a chance, who did Keaton cast? The more famous nuns. We are just as capable of performing those parts. Kermit and Piggy don't always have to be the leads.
It's the principle of the thing. We're supposed to be an ensemble, but when you ask people who their favorite Muppets are, it's always those two.
It just doesn't seem fair.
Especially with their absurd amount of PDA.
Interior the Henson Theater on stage present. Denise looks at Blanc. They hear some loud kissing and follow the sounds to Miss Piggy, who is showering Kermit with kisses.
Say that again, Piggy.
Oh, Kermit! I knew you weren't a murderer!
Of course not.
Seriously, who wants to see that every day?
I do see your point.
Miss Piggy keeps kissing Kermit until she finally notices that everyone is watching her. Miss Piggy chuckles uncomfortably.
Sorry! Go on!
Blanc turns back to Constantine.
A plan was formed.
Interior the Henson Theater on stage. Flashback. Levittson death. Constantine and Denise stand at the back of the crowd of arguing Muppets.
I'm upset.
I'm upset.
I'm not a
bigger
bigger part of the show.
They look at each other, and behind them, one of the light clicks on. An idea has started.
If we could use these deaths for our purposes,
We could get the parts we rightfully deserve.
so we work together.
Interior the Henson Theater on stage. Flashback. Levittson death. As the stage clears, Constantine and Denise stand on the edge of the blood, intentionally leaving footprints.
We wanted to leave clues.
Just enough to lead you to them.
Constantine reaches forward and grabs the handle of the knife with his bare hand.
It wasn't hard to point you in the direction.
We just wanted what was rightfully ours.
Interior the Henson Theater on stage present. Blanc looks between the two of them.
Well, hang on. If you wanted the parts that badly, why not perform for us right now? Let's see what you got.
The rest of the Muppet cheer in affirmation, encouraging Constantine and Denise.
I think we're getting away from the point a little bit here.
It'll just take a second. Show us what you got.
Constantine and Denise cross the stage to each other, steady themselves with a deep breath, and begin performing.
No, he was climbing a bookshelf. It fell back on him. He has no control. He gets scared and explodes.
What is it? A TK mutation.
Joe, someday he'll learn to control it.
Yeah, I know he will. Imagine what he could do.
If he did good with it, if he grew up good.
He does not.
The Muppets just look at the pair.
That was bad.
Yeah, I'm all for wanting something, but that was not good.
Why are you sugarcoating it like this? That sucked, okay?
Constantine and Denise sink.
I'll say, you made me miss when we were alive and could leave the theater.
If that was what we had to sit through every night, we'd have died weeks ago.
Oh.
Blanc turns back to them.
I just want to know one thing. Why did you kill Mr. V's?
Understood. We didn't kill anyone.
What?
I mean, framed, sure,
Planted evidence? Why not?
but we didn't murder. Miss Davies was already dead when we arrived.
I'm sorry. What?
I mean, we're not monsters.
Just opportunists.
I must say that is still a rather brilliant idea. I give you credit there.
Oh, it wasn't our idea.
What?
I never saw his face, but he laid the whole thing out for us.
Can you remember anything about it?
He was shadowy.
Numbness.
Blanc sags.
Kind of like that guy.
Denise points to the back of the house where Blanc sees the shadowy figure he has chased earlier.
Stop right there.
Blanc jumps off the stage and after the figure, who turns and runs.
That's two chase scenes in one movie.
Blanc stops and looks back at Constantine and Denise.
Look, no more framing.
Two framers drop from ropes in front of the stage.
Sorry, we still get paid for the day.
Not you, you two.
He points to Constantine and Denise.
You're both terrible dramatic actors. You have no chemistry. Just focus on the basics and stop trying to frame your way to the top.
It never worked for me either, kids.
Blanc turns and takes off after the shadowy figure. Interior the Henson Theater lobby moments later. Blanc rushes into the lobby, hot on the shadowy figure's trail. The Muppets run after him, wanting to follow the action. Blanc dives through the air and tackles the shadowy figure to the ground. Blanc hoists the man to his feet and pulls off his hat, revealing
Brandon
Fraser?
Oscar winner?
Shut up, Travis.
Hey guys.
It wasn't. Brendan Fraser looks a little embarrassed as Blanc helps him back to his feet.
Hey guys.
On and on.
To a monkey bone.
Thanks.
I'm the head of the theater club.
I'm sorry, but I must ask, why were you running?
Well, it's a little embarrassing. I was here to see Miss Piggy.
Miss Piggy's eyes widen and look at Brendan.
I read in the paper that she was single, so.
Brendan reaches into his coat and pulls out a small bouquet of flowers. Oh, God.
I was coming to ask you out, but then this gent started shouting at me and chasing me, so yeah, I ran.
Oh, that's so sweet, Brendan.
Miss Piggy struts over and takes the flowers.
This is just so lovely. I do wish I could go along for your big upswing, but the reports of my dating status have been a bit wrong.
Brendan sags.
Darn it.
Miss Piggy leans in close.
But if it ever changes, here's my number.
She slips him a card. Brendan smiles and tips his hat to her. Then he turns and walks away. Miss Piggy turns back to the group.
Well, he's cute. We should work with him soon.
What, so you can date him?
Because he's Brendan Fraser. He's a national treasure.
Jesus, I suppose so. I did love him in George of the Jungle.
Blanc paces.
Found it and blasted all across the river. I'm back at square one. It seems like everyone has a horse in this race.
Brendan Fraser is a horse racist.
Blanc turns to Gonzo flabbergasted.
What? No. Just no.
Oh, Lord, you really had me worried there for a second.
Enter the Henson Theater backstage that night. Blanc paces around backstage as the rest of the Muppets hustle and bustle around him. Scooter rushes up and looks at Blanc over his keyboard.
Back from intermission in 30 seconds. Doing good all. Let's keep the show running smooth.
Scooter turns his attention back to Blanc.
How's it going, Mr. Blanc?
Terrible.
Terrible.
Most definitely.
Well, that's not good.
I'm out of sorts. This case is a bit confounding. I've gone from having not enough theories to having too many. Now we got a killer running loose on opening night, and we're no closer to catching the suspect than we were a week ago.
I believe in you, Blanc. We wouldn't have called you in if we didn't need you.
Scooter hustles off, back to work.
I'm aware of this, and it's one of the biggest sticking points with the theories I got rattling around in my head.
Blanc crosses to the craft service table and looks over the spread while nervously fiddling with his unsmoked cigar.
Hello, there, Detective. Tasty snacks for you?
I'm good with snacks. I'm not good on his information.
Oh, no. Are you having trouble asserting your thoughts? It can be so frustrating.
If I may.
Sure.
I've been on this case for a week now, and in that time, I've seen more death firsthand than I have on my other cases.
I can swear riddle a man to say a cur to say a fellow man so many tomorrow.
Sure. So now I've got all these puzzle pieces.
If I never be a good for the puzzles, but the agent, I struggle with basic instructions.
You see, normally when I assemble a puzzle like this one, I lay out all the pieces on the tabletop, and well, the answer usually falls at my feet.
I prefer the Columbia method myself. Horberg.
Now it's almost like I got 300 pieces for a 100-piece puzzle.
Is it too many pieces? Because it seems like too many pieces.
So now I've got to sift through all these mismatched parts to find the relevant data.
Just remember Eric's reason. Whereas the simplest answer is usually the right one.
What'd you just say?
Eric's reason.
These odd words seems to resonate with Blanc.
About Regine, I got must have my Davy as a Gordon Ramsay's TikTok page. So maybe I'm not the best at giving that advice.
A crystalline thought crosses Blanc's mind, and just like that, he solved it.
Thank you, Chef. You are truly wise beyond your station.
And Blanc runs off towards the stage. Swedish Chef straightens his hat, proud.
Looks like I still get it from my days as a Urkeler. Does this means we should finally do the Matrix sequels? Related? Revolutions? Resurrections?
One of the chef's tomatoes looks up from the tabletop.
I don't think anyone wants that.
The Swedish chef looks at the tomato, picks up a mallet, and thwacks it over the head.
Ow!
Interior the Henson Theater. On stage moments later, the show is still going. Kermit sits on the side of the stage with Miss Piggy, Sam Eagle, and Gonzo on the other side. Walter is tucked into a corner. Bobo stands large against one of the fake set doors. Fozzie stands in the middle of the stage, about to start a monologue. Chris Elm starts in the front row, doing his best to not look embarrassed and failing. But right as Fozzie takes the spotlight, Blanc bursts in from the wings into the light, pushing past Fozzie to take focus. The crowd gasps.
Ladies and gentlemen in attendance, I apologize for the interruption. This show has been in the throes of something of a murder spree these last few days, and till just a moment ago, I was struggling to wrap my head around the culprit. With a few wise words, I believe I've come to a solution that will resolve the issue post-haste.
The crowd looks at Blanc blankly.
Yeah.
What? Glad to know it's not just us.
It usually just means we have good taste.
Hush, you two. Look, I've solved the case. Say again.
We did as well.
Days ago.
Only because you got murdered.
Touche.
The crowd gasps in anticipation.
First, we must consider the suspects. Given that no one really seemed to be a fan of Mr. Keaton, there were quite a few. Like Sam here.
Sam looks shocked.
He hated the fact that Keaton ignored his input on the marketing.
I'm not denying the truth of that statement, but I'm still in shock over your accusation.
Or was it Mr. the Frog?
Not this again.
Oh, this is brilliant.
Fozzie pulls out a small notebook and starts taking notes on Blanc's mannerisms.
I'll admit I was thrown for a loop there when there were several incriminating elements that seemed to point towards me. That was all a misleading trail set out by Mr. Constantine.
At dawn by an evil mastermind from our past hell-bent on revenge, Charles Grodin.
No, definitely not him.
Oh, it was a secret twin separated at birth.
No.
Doppelganger?
Stop helping.
Fozzie looks down.
I swear, you're doing a lot of chopping, but no chips are flying.
Blanc turns back to Kermit.
Now, where was I? Oh, yes. Mr. the Frog here is simply trying to keep his business afloat. And Mr. Keaton was bankrolling the show, so Mr. the Frog has no desire to kill this man. And Sam only desired control of the social media accounts.
I still get the approvals on all the posts, okay?
Blanc begins pacing back and forth.
But then I began to ponder another dizzying point.
Blanc turns and points off stage.
Scooter!
Ah!
Now, I looked over my being here, and one thing became very apparent. There was no need for me to be here. This case is so startlingly simple that anyone could figure it out. So I kept thinking big, crafting larger and larger scenarios in my head, like making an onion dip for a party. You start overestimating how many people are going to eat it, and then you end up with so much leftover dip that it goes bad in the fridge.
No, I really want onion dip.
Scooter should have called the police.
That's what I said.
And what did he say to that?
He doesn't like cops.
Well, who does these days?
And if we didn't, there was no movie.
Now, while I don't fully understand what you mean by this being a movie per se, I realized I was getting in my own way. Maybe I'm cutting into my third onion when I really only needed one. Maybe in this case, the most obvious answer really is the correct one.
And to accuse me just because I'm the only one up here is racist.
Well, I said nothing of the sort.
All right, carry on.
I mean, it was obviously Elm.
Blanc gestures to an empty seat in the audience previously occupied by Elm.
Why do they always run? I am not much of a runner.
Blanc looks off the stage, edge of the stage, and sees Sweetums walking back down the aisle holding a captive Chris Elms.
See, it began on opening night.
Interior the Henson Theater lobby flashback. Elm stands watching Davis walk away, malice in his eyes.
See, he was spurned by Miss Devise's playful barbs. Raging at having his fragile ego rattled, he found himself on the stage.
Interior the Henson Theater on stage flashback. Keaton's murder. Elm stumbles across the stage and runs into Keaton.
Now, Keaton said something that enraged him further, just enough to tip him over the edge.
I've always been more of a Shatner guy.
Elm pulls a large knife from his belt holster and embeds it into Keaton's chest. Keaton looks shocked.
Everything from there on, was simply covering his tracks.
Enter the Henson Theater on stage flashback. Levittson murder. Levittson walks across the stage, bumping into Elm.
This show is going to be a blockbuster. A quick question. Where were you when Keaton was killed? I can't seem to figure it out.
Elm pulls out his knife again and stabs Levittson.
That's uncalled for.
Interior Waldorf Statler's booth flashback murder time. Elm slashes at Waldorf and Statler.
That's why he killed the boys in the booth.
Obviously.
And you call yourself a brilliant detective.
You've been no help at all.
Enter the Henson Theater on stage flashback. Elm stands in the shadow, his large beard hidden under an even larger scarf.
It was a stroke of luck when you encountered Constantine and Denise.
Constantine and Denise sit at the foot of the stage, commiserating about Kermit and Piggy.
They would provide just enough of a distraction to throw me off of your trail, and I must admit, it did for a moment there.
Interior Viola Davies' office. Flashback Viola's murder. Elm grabs a large feather quill from Viola's hand and stabs it into her throat.
But Viola is where you started to enjoy it. You took great pleasure in silencing your greatest critic.
Elm's face is covered with a big smile.
And you might have gotten away with it if Constantine and Denise were better actors.
Words hurt.
You're going to jail.
Oh.
Enter the Henson Theater. On stage, Fozzie looks between Elm and Blanc.
Why'd he do it? Why'd he have all that anger in the first place? Was he upset over a lack of Princess Diaries 3? An ongoing feud with Harry Styles?
Oh, it's obvious. He hated all the changes made to the show.
What changes?
Just the fact that it was a Muppet production.
What? Are you a Muppet hater?
I wrote a great adaptation of a popular film to put it on stage and become a long-running show. The next Mousetrap. And then Keaton forced you all down my throat, saying it'll help the show sell. Levittson convinced himself that the show was better this way. Better? Is he insane? I wrote a show that was niche, that it would have been the same audience every single night about online, and it's the best thing they've ever seen. Unironically. But the Muppets? I was writing a show for mature adults, not people for all ages. Then Viola let me read an early copy of her review of the show. She said the most interesting thing on the show was the murder that ended it. Called it another soulless adaptation. So she had to die.
Show devoid of the spark of joy. It was brutal. You get over it.
You don't take criticism well.
You're one to talk. How's it feel to be the less successful late night talk show host than Craig Kilborn?
Yes!
Miss Piggy jumps at Elm, not caring that Sam is directly in her way. She collides with him and then clatters to the floor. Fozzie looks for Miss Piggy and Sam on the floor to Elm.
Wow, that's one hell of a motive.
And another blatant ripoff of See How They Run.
Yeah, I like being the one to share all that part. That was kind of my whole thing.
I'm just happy to be included.
Kermit turns to Elm in the crowd.
I read your draft, Chris. I'm sorry to say, it just wasn't good.
Wasn't good? It just went over your head.
No, I'm a frog. My head is quite low. I got it. It was just a boring show. Not in a negative way. It just seemed very much like a first draft.
It was my 12th!
Oh, then you just might be a pretentious writer.
You swampy best. Ah!
Sweetums tightens his grip on Elm.
Go, mate!
Should I?
No!
Please!
He's asking nicely.
He's murdered multiple people. Take him to the police.
Oh, all right.
Sweetums walks off, dragging Elm behind him.
Wait.
Sweetums turns Elm in tow.
You had a decent red herring. I was certainly distracted. So why did you stick around? Especially after National Treasure Brendan Fraser led me on a merry chase. Why not just leave?
I'm a writer. I had to see how the story played out.
Huh.
I've already sold the docuseries rights to Netflix.
Congratulations.
Elm's phone rings. He answers.
Hello?
Elm nods for a moment or two, then hangs up.
They canceled the docuseries.
Serves you right.
Sweetums takes Elm back up the aisle towards the door. Kevin Bacon, sitting in the aisle seat, looks around befuddled.
I didn't know this was doing the whole cats audience thing. That show always gave me the heebie cheepies.
He turns to the seat next to him, which is occupied by a cat Muppet.
What you got against cats, Kevin
Uh,
Bacon?
I'm sorry, nothing.
Oh, good. That would break my heart.
The cat Muppet purrs and rubs its head into Kevin Bacon's chest. Interior the Henson Theater. Backstage after the show, Blanc stands among the Muppets, all cheering.
Thank you, Mr. Blank.
We couldn't have solved it without you.
Yes, you could have.
Don't shortchange yourself like that.
No, you misunderstand. I trust my intellect most assuredly. But this was a case that didn't need a wickedly handsome celebrity detective. It was head-smackingly obvious. I spent the last 3 days trying to convince myself it was anything other than the angry writer mumbling to himself in the corner. That man has had rest in bitch face for the last 72 hours.
So does Sam, but he hasn't murdered anyone.
Not since the war, anyway.
Kermit looks at Sam, racked with concern.
The point is, your case has been solved, and I'd like to discuss my payment, if that's all right. Not that I don't like spending time with you all, but if I'm being honest, you are a level of wacky that I aspire to, but find a bit exhausting at this proximity.
Well, we're certainly sorry to hear that. We do try to keep our wacky within acceptable parameters, although we are known to get nutty from time to time.
I've certainly been called nutty myself. Well, it's usually because I'm proposing a theory that people find closer to poppycock than the truth.
I love hearing you speak.
Thank you. Anyway, my payment.
I did mention we're broke.
I do recall that, and that fact does worry me slightly.
Scooter runs up to Blanc.
I can offer you a complimentary ticket to our next and hopefully last opening night.
Blanc glances from Scooter to the ticket and back to Scooter.
Why not? I'm a sucker for the theater.
The Muppets cheer. Interior the Henson Theater lobby the next night. Blanc enters the lobby and looks around. A peaceful tranquility surrounds him. He crosses to the concession stand. Dr. Teeth stands behind the bar.
What can I get for you?
They got you pulling double duty?
No, I just wanted to make some snacks for myself before the show.
Blanc looks up at the menu.
You want a brownie for the show?
You know what? Sure. I do indulge my sweet tooth every once in a blue moon.
Dr. Teeth hands Blanc a large chocolate chip brownie.
Made with my mom's old secret family recipe. And
Blanc takes a large bite.
Give my thanks to your dear mother.
Tell her yourself.
Dr. Teeth walks away and shouts across the lobby.
Hey, Mama!
An old Muppet looks up from the newspaper.
Foghorn Leghorn here loves your brownies.
Wait till he goes nuts.
Blanc looks inquisitively at the brownie.
Oh, there are nuts in this. I do love nuts.
No nuts, just chocolate chips and a secret ingredient.
Are those special brownies? Blanc looks at the brownie confused, but before he can think too much about it, Swedish chef pops up from behind the counter.
Welcome to the concession stand. Can Bear get you some snacks before the show?
Blanc looks from Swedish chef to Dr. Teeth walking away.
So he doesn't work back there?
I do ours of food here. It's Bram's a chef.
Blanc eyes the brownie worriedly. Interior the Henson Theater, on stage, showtime. Blanc sits in the theater, staring at the stage, eyes as big as dinner plates. On stage, Miss Piggy sits in a large chair surrounded by knives. Fozzie paces back and forth.
Yes, you did. Yes, he did. Yes, you are. But I spoke in the car about the hole at the center of this donut. And yes, what you and Harlan did that fateful night seems at first glance to fill that hole perfectly.
What? The crowd looks amongst themselves.
What accent is that?
What is he even saying?
Insane.
I did like the Captain America cameo.
Waldorf and Statler ghosts just stare from their booths.
What?
What even is that?
Is he trying to sound like the detective?
Columbo?
I hope not. I'd rather die all over again.
At least until the sequel.
Blanc's eyes trail from the stage to the program in his hand. Knives Out, a Muppet stage spectacular. His eyes raised back up to Fozzie on stage.
A donut hole in the donut's hole, but we must look a little closer. And when we do, we see that the donut hole has a hole in its center. It is not a donut hole at all, but a smaller donut with its own hole. And our donut is not whole at all.
Blanc stares for a beat, as he does the rest of the audience. The audience looks confused, clearly not sure about this show. Then after a moment, Blanc laughs, a deep, drug-induced belly laugh, and he's the only one laughing. Fade out, the end. Drugs. Just drugs.
And that was Bloody Felt, a Knives Out mystery. Thank you so much for joining us for this weird ass mashup, and we'll see you at the next one.